In this episode, we're going to look at a PCM M1. Is that what it's called? Let's check the model and try your call again, or call your operator to help you. This is a recording. No, seriously, this is a PCM M1. It's a Walkman DAT, digital audio tape. And we know how much I love those things because they're so freaking small you can barely see anything, never mind work on them. Let's check it out. This is a digital Walkman, a DAT Walkman. It's a PCM M1. Just giving it a quick inspection first. I don't know what the failure on this one is. I guess I'll find out pretty quick. Probably gummed up. I'm not really a fan of these small units because they're just impossible to work on. It's in hold mode. Where is the button for hold? Turn that off. First things first, I'm just giving it a visual inspection. Usually what happens is guides and stuff get gummed up on these machines, and that prevents them from working. But like all these small machines, they're almost impossible to work on. I'm going to pop the top cover off here first, and just so I can observe what's going on, whether the guides are stuck, because that's usually what happens on these is the lubricant on them dries up and the guides get stuck. Someone once asked me what I would rather work on, a camcorder or a DAT Walkman. Well, I'll have to say the camcorder, just because you've got more room to work in them. These are very, very small, and everything is crammed together, and they're just impossible to do anything with. You require all these special adapter cables to extend things so that you can, actually, well, I mean, I can't even see what's going on in here without removing this cover, but this cover, of course, it's going to have a ribbon cable, at least one ribbon cable that's going to connect it to the main board so that you have a display and buttons. And of course, if I disconnect that ribbon cable, then I can't operate the machine. That's the big issue with these stupid things, is that they just, you have to kind of do this and very carefully tilt this back without breaking the ribbon cable, just so that I can observe what the mechanism is doing when I attempt to load a tape. See what's sticking. Oh, take-up spool's not turning. There's the problem there. The take-up spool's not turning. Well, that'll make it eat the tape. Why it's not turning. Just load that tape again. Yeah, you see? Alright, so now we can see what is kind of wrong. Why is it doing it? The problem is when I get this apart, to put it through the motions, I won't be able to operate it when it's apart. I'll have to just kind of walk it through the motions by hand But I won't know whether I've really got the problem solved until I put it back together. And that's what I hate about these things. They're just impossible to work on. I'll remove the back from the unit. That's what we're up against on these machines, is that they have all these ribbon cables that have to be unplugged to pull the board in order to access the mechanism, and when they're unplugged you can't do anything with the unit. It's non-functional. In fact, I think one of these ones here is going to be impossible to remove anyway. They got one ribbon that comes along, fishes through here, and I believe it comes up on this one here. I'm going to get the mechanism to load without a tape in it by pressing down the button. And we can see the capstan turns backwards, but when the capstan turns forward, it should be transferring power to this spool. It's not. When it turns backwards, it's transferring power to that one, but when it goes forward, it's not transferring power to this one. Now, there's a little gear assembly down here. It may be a broken gear. That's what I'm afraid of. It's going to be a little gear is broken or missing, which is quite common on these ones. A little plastic nylon gear that has a tendency to fail. I've got it in the loaded position now, so we can see what position the mechanism's in. I'll start releasing these little ribbon cables and get them out of the way so that I can try to lift the circuit board out on this. I'm not really hopeful that I'm going to be able to do anything on this, just because I know what happens on them, and when you get the little gears that break, it's you're not finding them. And I'll add, you're not 3D printing them. Not this type. You might be able to 3D print the conventional gear, but the gears in here are just like the gears on that high 8 machine that take up hub cracks and falls apart. You're not 3D printing them. It's not going to happen just when you see the design of it. Got to be kidding. I got to take this out to take out a screw on the record volume that's holding this. What the? I'm ready right now at this point to wash my hands of this entire unit. I just want to lift the board out, but I can't even do that. I can't even lift the board out of this thing. What the hell else is? What the hell else is holding it? Is there another screw? Looks like there might be another screw down here. Okay, I've just removed a whole bunch of screws just so I can try to lift the circuit board up a bit so that I can see what's under here. This is just, and of course there's more ribbon cables. Oh yeah, okay, here's our problem. This is unrepairable. You got a gear that's snapped right there. You can see it. See that piece right there? That gear is broken. So this is this one's a paperweight. Well, now we know where the fault is. You can see right there. That's one of these gears. It's part of this base assembly here. In fact, the rest of it's underneath here. You can see where it broke. This is one of these gears. It's part of this sensor. I even just take the part out so I could send it back to him and say, yeah, there's what remains of the gear. But there's the bottom half of it there. You can see where it's broken. Right? See the teeth are off right there. You can see it right there, the top half of it. That's part of the rotation sensor. It has a little photo detector there, and that half of the gear is missing. So I'm now going to throw this back together and say, sorry Charlie, but this is what happens. This plastic. This is like the gears on some of the high 8 machines that were like a ring around a metal support. This piece here looks like it's made out of metal. Yeah, it is. You see, there's the metal disc there. You see, that was a gear that went around this metal piece here. And what happens is the plastic shrinks, and of course metal doesn't shrink, and it cracks and falls apart. Yeah, that's what the problem is, and this one's going back together. I'll have to get a hold of the guy and say, sorry man, can't do anything. This is the same guy that owned the DAP machine I worked on last week, and he sent me both of them at the same time to look at, but as you can see, this one here is just not going to be repairable. So I'll throw it back together, and we will end it at this point, because nothing more to show. We know where the fault is, and it's beyond repair. I tell you right now, if I was working in the business and someone handed me one of these things and said I had to fix it, that might be something I would quit over. My God, I've spent more time trying to get this goddamn thing back together, even though it's shot. Just all these stupid little screws and covers and crap that has to come off just to get at it. I mean, it's just, yeah, I know Sony was this was a little project for Sony so that they could prove something, that they could make the smallest digital tape recorder in the world. But sometimes they should have asked themselves whether maybe do they really need to make this thing? Like, is this something that really needed to be made? Because they're not the ones trying to fix the goddamn thing. It's the service people who would curse this thing. All these little buttons that have to be taken off, and yeah, I don't even know why I'm bothering to reconnect these, because it's not going to work anyway, but at least I want it to still power up like it did before. But yeah, that's the problem. As I mentioned before, the plastic parts. And I know someone's going to comment, they should have made them out of metal. Well, again, the design life cycle of something like this would have been, maybe 5 years. They would have never considered that someone would be still trying to use one of these things, all these years later. They were not designed to last like this. This is a Walkman, right? This is a Walkman. And as such, it's the type of device that might be used for a year or so. Like in the real world, when people were using something like this, it would be used for maybe a year or two, and then something new would be out and you'd buy a new one. See, I trapped some of these. I gotta lift this up now because I trapped a ribbon cable under here that I gotta plug in. And I don't even know why I'm bothering going through the motions to plug this stuff in, because the unit itself is not going to work, and it's never going to work because you're never going to find that part, but we'll dig it up here anyway. There it is. I think that's it. There we go. I'm just putting this thing back together so that I can say, yeah, it's in the same condition it was in when I received it, and that I have not damaged it. I just want it to go back in the same condition that I received it in. So putting everything back together, putting all the connectors back in, and and then send it back. Put all the screws back in that came out. Something like that. All right, it's back together. In the same condition I received it. I'll send that back with it. I'll tape that down to the top here, so he knows the part that's broken, even though he's never going to find one. Thanks for watching. As I say, this has been a great waste of my time. I've been on this thing. I know the video hasn't gone on that long because I've been stopping the camera as I was figuring out how to get it apart. But I've been on this a couple of hours, so good waste of time. I love these things, and I'm being sarcastic when I say it. I actually hate these little damp machines. I've got one myself. I got the TCD-D3, I think it's called, and that's the smallest one I ever want to work on. At least it's somewhat workable when it's apart. And that was the first one. But I don't even want to fix them, because these are just too small, and you got all these parts just like this. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.